when I got off tour, I was reading the 5 Fundamentals of Golf, which at that time, or probably still is, the Bible of golf. And of course, the way I quantitatively understood it, Hogan talked about rotation and he talked about swing plane. So, and doing that, in order to pronate the way I pronate, okay, I had to come up with a very weak left hand. And now even when I try to move it, I have a hard time, so I don't even bother with it anymore. But by keeping it on the weak side, it enables me to rotate underneath this plane of glass from my chin to the ball that goes to infinity right down the fairway behind me, in front of me. So as long as I can coil underneath that plane, that club's going to square up. Number one, it will never go left. And number two, it's always going to be in front of me as long as I stay behind it. And that's really my swing thought. You know, I try to get set up in an athletic position, you know, balls at my feet, and I try to coil, okay? And as long as I can stay behind it, I get that good extension.
My swing, I think, has gone 180 degrees. I used to think about swinging my body, letting my body swing the golf club, and now I think about letting the golf club swing my body. So I try to have a little bit lighter grip so I can feel the club head and let the club head swing and let it go to a natural position, and the same thing going down. So Ernest Jones' Swing the Club has a book I read all the time.
That's great. And there's never an end to the learning process, is there, Bob? Both as a technician and as a player.
Well, you know that. I think every day that you wake up, you feel a little bit differently. I think that's why feel is so important in the golf swing.
Okay.
So, head still, keep it smooth. There she goes.
Lovely.
Perfect.
It's almost a pause.
Yeah, I've always had a pause at the top.
But that's nice because
Oh yeah,
then
because
there's no
you can correct
transition.
things.
Right.
You can correct things there
Yeah.
with a pause. If you get, I mean, it's so much better than too quick. You know, because too quick's history. But just a nice little pause, and it just gets you in there. I believe that's what my father always taught me.
Don't need to force it. I mean, it's kind of just like position. I mean, if you're just swinging for accuracy, just make sure the shoulders turn, you know, both back and through. Turn, turn. There you go. If you commit to the shoulders, then you can just pop it forward. Anytime pressure creeps in, you know, it goes to your shoulders first, goes to your upper chest first, and it's a natural tendency. People should accept that, you know, to be, when you're nervous, the body helps you. It says, I'll fix that, I'll curl up in a ball. So when you recognize, hey, I've got nervous, then think, yeah, the thing it's going to affect first is the shoulders. They're just not going to quite make it. So that's when you need to, you just make a conscious effort. You either see your left shoulder come under your chin, or another great one for the tempo is actually to count. You know, you get 1, 2. If you get the full 1, 2, I go 1, 2, 3 being impact and throw. So at least you get the 2 in, because when you get nervous, it'd be 1, half. So get that 2 in as you turn and then through.
Not bad. When things go bad, I lose, I don't turn. When I'm tight or something, or like I said, not feeling great, I don't move. And movement or turning or rotation in golf is the glue. It keeps everything together. If you don't have that, you're done. And look at all the best players. I mean, the best turn in history is Tiger. And you see what he does with it. I mean, he's just, you know, he's good almost all the time.
Trust it, Jay.
Now that's the way it's done right there. Aiming at a target and hitting that target, whether it be a good shot or a good round. So I'm going to try to play a little bit of a right to left draw in here. Avoid the bunker on the left. Again, uphill into the wind. I'm going to try to keep it down. Play a little 3/4 7. And I think I want to try to return my body to impact position. And this is something that Billy Harmon and I work on, thinking of my spine angle in this manner here, and as I come into the ball, I don't want the spine angle to tilt back this way. I want to try to keep it the same as it was at a dress position. And that one there, I felt a little bit this way, a little underneath it, and I can tell that because the ball was a little higher trajectory than I would normally like and out to the right. So next time, next shot, I'll feel a little more comfortable with getting on top of the ball a little bit more. On long position, I want to remain as relaxed as possible. Balance, being in an athletic position, I think is very important. One of my keys is staying level during my swing. One of my tendencies is to collapse at the top here. To get a little extra coil in my swing, I'll have a tendency to dip down and then come back up. So one of my keys is to stay level throughout the whole swing. And again, I'm talking about that spine angle, trying to keep in this position more as opposed to under here.
I've got the club sort of laid off a bit, which I didn't like. My left wrist was very sort of flat, like a waiter carrying a tray. You want to get that, you want to get to there, you see, and your hand's got to be under there. Watch this. You go like that, you put it there, not there. You'll never last a long time. You'll never play golf well as an old man if you've got a flat wrist position at the top. You've got to get that position like Hogan had it there.
What I do is I tend to kind of go down to the ball a little bit. I have a lot of leg movement, you know, driving into the ball, and I kind of, like sink is probably the right word, almost like sink into the ball in a certain way, which I think is if you're going to do anything movement-wise, you know, if you're not going to be perfect, you know, staying perfectly level, you're better off kind of moving into the ball as opposed to moving up away from the ball. You know, so I tend to kind of go down to the ball, so therefore I hit the ball, you know, solid almost every time. You know, I'm moving down into the ball, but still being fairly level, and so I hit it right in the middle of the club face almost every time. And you know, when you hit it solid every time, you always feel like, well, the next shot will be a good shot if that one wasn't. You know, I can correct whatever's going wrong pretty easily.
My problem is on par fives, I tend to go after it probably a little too hard and don't tend to hit the fairways as much. I think if I can hit the fairway here, I got a good chance of getting there in two. So I just tee it up a little higher and just make sure I stay in the shot. Not thinking too much, just tempo, staying in the shot. Nice dog leg right, sets up for my little cut. And I'll try to give you that great balanced shot. Might be too far right, huh, Lump? What I work on mostly is trying to feel comfortable standing up to it. I try to get my posture up. I try to kind of get my shoulders back a little bit. That's what I've been working on. My tendency as I take it back is I tend to get it a little too this way. The club snatches a little too inside. So what I try to do is try to bring the grip back this way and try to level my shoulders out. I don't want my shoulders going this way. I want them level. And then from there, I just kind of coil wind up and try to pause top of my swing and feel like my head stays down and I'm through, just like the putting stroke. Keep my head down and through. Putting stroke, golf shot. I want to feel like I'm releasing everything. And that's the best feeling in golf, releasing it. Holding on's no fun, like I did on that shot.
The shoulders control the direction the club goes. And if we're trying to hit a dead straight shot, you've always heard about aligning your feet square and your knees and your hips and your shoulders. That is the easiest way to do it. Some people stand open and have square shoulders, and some people stand a little closed and have square shoulders. That's fine. Especially for the older guys and guys who aren't supple, to stand closed and have your shoulders square is a good thing because it helps you to turn back behind the ball a little more. But generally speaking, when we're going to hit the normal straight shot with the 5-iron as I have here, I'm going to stand with my feet square, parallel to my target line. I'll get my shoulders aligned square to that, my hips, and very importantly, the eyes. Because if the eyes get out of kilter, it's going to bring the shoulder around, or if you dip your head this way, it's going to bring the shoulder around and point them to the right. So make sure that your eyes are nice and square, and then just go ahead and swing normally, and you should hit a straight shot. If I'm going to draw the ball, and I've hit it behind a tree, and obviously by moving the ball back in your stance or up in your stance, you can elevate the ball flight or knock it down a little bit. But if I'm going to draw the ball, basically I'm going to just align my body to the right. I'm going to put the club face square to my target line where I want the ball to finish. So in relation to my body, it is shut. But in actual fact, relation to where I'm going, it's dead square. And I'm going to just turn my shoulders and align everything to the right. And what's going to happen is the club's now going to come back on an inside line, and it's going to release outside the line that way, and the ball's going to start off on the direction that my shoulders are aiming. But because my club face is square or closed relative to my body, it's going to put hook spin on it. And there's your draw. So it's basically the same swing. All you're doing is changing the lines a little bit. And if I'm going to cut the ball, which is a shot that I try and play quite a lot, and some guys, when you get in between clubs, you've got that half yardage. Some people feel more comfortable taking less club and drawing it further. Other people prefer taking a little bit off it. A cut shot won't go as far as a draw. So I prefer most of the time to play a cut shot if the pin is in the correct position for the cut shot. If it's in the left-hand side of the green, I'm going to try and draw it. But to cut the ball, I'm now just going to align my body to the left. My club face is still pointing at the target, and the club's now going to go outside my target line, but square to my body position. So the shoulder's a little open, and there's...
So I just, if I'm thinking about hitting it higher, I want to have impact right here. If I want to hit it lower, I want the club to be more this way. And I just took all the things that I learned about posture and about flattening out my left wrist or whatever it might be, and applied it to the golf swing, and it all was dedicated on the trajectory. So if I wanted to hit it high, I knew I had to hit it more with the angle of the club like this. And
hit a couple high for us, Tom.
So I hit a couple high ones.
See, that's really what we did at Rochester one at Oak Hill at the Ryder Cup in '95, was to hit balls high to that tree out to the right there to help you stay behind your ball.
Absolutely. Yeah. The biggest problem I have with my golf swing when I get in trouble is I tend to take it back, not get a very good turn, I hang left, and then I lean. Okay.
Right. And takes all the loft off the club, doesn't it? Right. Or back up, either one of the two.
Right. So the way for me to get out of that is to kind of go in reverse. So what's the opposite of hitting a ball where you're like this? The opposite is hitting a ball like this.
Okay, hit a little knockdown for us then, so we can see the difference in the position of your body and the club and your hands and impact.
If I hit it low, I play the ball back, and I want to make sure I get to this position, right to here. And so I drive my legs hard, and I...
Boy, I've seen you hit a lot of shots that way where the trajectory is so perfect.
Right. As a kid, one thing I would do is I saw a picture of Lee Trevino. And the picture showed him past impact. The ball was right here. His club head was way here, and it was still only that far off the ground. All right, the idea of compressing the ball and being low through the ball and on plane. And so I spent a lot of time as a kid trying to, copy Lee Trevino, which is why I swing the way I do, is I try to get the club going well past the ball.
You know what? Those are the two best shots you've hit this morning. Maybe we ought to bring Lee back into our vision, huh?
No, yeah, but the idea, though, is taking the things that you know are true and applying it to your own swing, and then letting the trajectory and the distance control be your judge. I mean, you be your own coach, so to speak.
And then that gives you really accurate feedback, doesn't it? The ball doesn't lie to us, does it?
Us to imagine the perfect pivot.
Well, you can't really talk about pivot until you talk about posture, because if your body's not in a good setup position, it's very difficult for it to move correctly or pivot correctly. Mm-hmm. So I'm just going to use John here. We're just going to go through what a good setup looks like, and then we'll talk about how to pivot. First of all, if John would just stand straight up and down there, you can see when he's in a balanced position here, his shoulders are kind of over his feet, vertically aligned with his feet, and his shoulder joints from a down-the-line view are vertically aligned with his hip joints, and he's very balanced. But we don't play golf from a vertical position. We play golf with our spine angled towards the ball. So what we want to try to do is have John push his hips back and bring his chest forward the same amount. In other words, as he's pushing his hips behind his feet, he brings his chest forward, and then just a slight flex in the knees to get into a balanced position here. And a good checkpoint is if we would just look from down the line, from the back of his arms. If I held a club here, it would go from the back of his arms to the front of his knee to the middle of his foot. They would be vertically aligned. Now from a face-on view, if you look at a face-on view, since his left hand is higher on the club than the right, the left shoulder will be higher than the right shoulder, and the left hip will be slightly higher than the right hip. And from here, balance just means he can move. He can move his body without having to redistribute his weight. Now because his left side is a little higher than his right, his spine is going to tilt slightly away from the target. And the longer the club, the more tilt it's going to have because the ball is going to be more forward. But a key element in having the correct pivot, if you just set up to the ball, John, is your ball position. And you always want the top of your spine slightly behind the ball, because in golf, as a definition said, you want to rotate around your spine. So if John would just turn back, he's rotating behind my finger. Now you can see how his body is turned behind the golf ball, but he's actually pivoting on his right hip. So on the backswing, you pivot over your right hip, and you can see how his whole chest is to the right of the golf ball. And that's what people would call a loaded position. Go ahead and swing back there again for me, John. You can see how his shoulders have turned more than his hips, and he's really balanced there on his right side. Now from there, what he would do is he would shift his weight back to his left foot and lower his arms down in front of him, get back to balance, and then he would do the same thing as he swings through the ball. He would go ahead and let the weight rotate around his left side all the way up to a finish. Go ahead and go to the finish. And you can see now he's balanced over his left hip. So really you're pivoting on your hip joints around your spine, around the right hip, and on top of it where you're balanced here. As you shift your left hip back over your left foot, your arms drop down in front of your body, and then you just simply rotate around your left hip to a nice balanced position.
If we took a down the line view of that position at the top, we would notice that John's spine angle or tilt position really doesn't change very much in the golf swing. How can you, most amateurs probably struggle with keeping that position. Is it a conscious thought for you, John, to maintain that spine tilt or that posture position, or is it something that comes naturally?
I think it's something that just comes naturally. And I think it's just a matter of hitting a lot of balls and spending a lot of time working on it. And you know, when Todd and I first got together and I made a lot of changes, and this was one of them, it really required a lot of effort on my part to go hit a lot of balls and really feel it. And it took a while, but now it's just got, you know, to where it's just a natural feeling, and I don't really think about, you know, where I am in my spine angle and things like that. I'm able to just swing the club and just play golf.
Can we get a sense of where your swing was when you came to Todd and what you did, you know, from there?
I guess really
you've probably forgotten it, and that's not a bad thing.
Yeah, really. My biggest problem, I think, when I first came to Todd was my knees were kind of pinched in. My posture really wasn't that good. When I took the club away, my left side would kind of drop down to the ball, and still, even today, that's kind of a problem that I get into from time to time. But I really, you know, dropped my left side down, which really put me in a bad position at the top, where I either had to really time my swing perfectly to hit good shots. That's why I lost the consistency that I have today. But you know, that was really, I think, how I was. I kind of was a little more handsy than I am now today. I think I'm more compact, and everything moves together more during the swing than it did before. I was very handsy, kind of flip it at the bottom. That's why I hit it further than I do now. I've become more consistent. I'm able to hit the ball straighter and more under control.
Why don't you hit a couple shots for us, just to give us an idea of what that swing looks like right now? We know it's making money on the PGA Tour, tied for 11th last week in Phoenix. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And the balanced finish position tells us that he maintained good posture throughout the entire swing.
Well, the big thing, John and I, he took some time off in the off season. He was pretty tired after a full year of playing, and when we went back to work, I went over to Tampa and we worked before he went to Hawaii. And you were kind of back where you were years ago. You always have those tendencies as a player. And go ahead and just set up, and we'll just kind of show him what happens when it goes bad. You know, he gets a little bit slouchy. His hips get a little bit too much underneath him. And as he turns, his right hip tends to get high. His left side tends to get low. Now from there, because he's gotten closer to the golf ball, he has two options. He can either pull up and out of the shot, which would tend to make him hit the ball out to the right unless he saves it with his hands. Or if he doesn't get up and out of it, he's going to probably hit a little bit fat and left. So we work really hard on getting him in a good setup. We worked a little today on just trying to get his hips back behind him a little bit more, and then just really trying to get him to feel like his left shoulder stays high on the backswing, so he can get back onto his right side more. And then when he gets there, he just basically does what? What do you do from there, John?
I just really turned, like you said, drop the arms back in from the top, and I just turn right through the shot and right to a balanced finish.
And it looks so beautiful.
Very simple.
Well, those thoughts are simple for you. For the viewer at home, maybe they struggle a little bit more with the cure. You're a very talented man. Maybe some others are more of an amateur status. And what we want to do when we come back is drop a few more cures your way. We've got some great solutions, and also we want to tackle maybe the different symptoms of a bad pivot. Tell you what they might be. You may be having one and you don't even know it just yet. We're going to take a break. As we head out, we're going to take a look at the file of Todd Anderson. 2002, big year for you. You went from 408th in the world ranks. You won. There are a lot of players that feel that if you can get perfectly set at the top of your backswing, you can go ahead and fire away. Is that what you think is the right thing to do?
Well, I think there has to be some sort of linkage between moving the arms and the hands and the movement of the body. And I think of 4 simple words. If you go ahead and go to the top here, I think when he gets to the top, he wants to feel his arms come down as his weight goes down to his left foot. So down, down, and then rotate and release. I mean, that's a simple way of thinking about it. When you're to the top of your swing, you want your weight moving down onto your left foot as your arms come down in front of your body, and then as you rotate your body, you want to let the club release through to a finish. So if you think down, down, rotate, release, that kind of covers the whole thing in 4 simple words.
Down, down,
rotate, release.
Rotate and release. DD.